I'm not even gonna lie, the thumbnail, made by JustOM, which I did say his name right this time, is a little bit of a fib. The video should be titled, What If Deku Was a Great Ape? But that sounds goofy, so SAIYAN it is. Trust me though, don't click off, it is going to be peak. This is also a commission video, my first ever. Woo! Shout out to the GOAT for commissioning this, and shout out for letting me be so free with it. He didn't make me follow any storyline, or add any new characters or anything, so it's just a regular video. It's going to be fire, trust me. Anyways, onto the intro. Great apes. Dragon Ball Z Planet Busters. Big ass monkeys that can nuke continents with their bare hands. Like, let's be real, we saw how bad Gohan's great ape form did Goku. I'm sure you've all seen him before, and if you haven't, go watch Dragon Ball, it's peak. If I'm gonna be honest, this power wasn't one I had on my bingo books to do. I never really saw it as anything more than a transformation, but then I was commissioned, and ever since then, I've seen it a little bit differently. I've done my research. And before you ask, no, it's not just gonna be a 10 times buff like it's said to be in the show. It's gonna be a fully fleshed out quirk, just let me cook. I think I can make this peak, so if you end up liking the concept, stick around to the end. Anyways, if you want a commission, all that stuff's going to be down in the description. Like usual, drop a like, sub, and a comment along with checking out the podcast and the Spotify in the description. Enough said, let's get into it. Now, Deku would be born on his regular birthday, in the regular hospital as in canon. Though unlike regular Deku, this one was different. See, this timeline, of course, Deku came out with a tail on him. When I say tail, I don't mean like that bum Ojiro either. I mean a monkey tail, like Goku. Deku would be born with this tail, doctors right away writing it down as just having a mutation type quirk. From there, he would go home, living his regular life as a kid. Inko noticing Deku was weirdly resilient. He never had scratches on him, he barely ever cried. Really, it was kinda strange. Either way, Deku would low-key grow up normally, going to the same school with Bakugo and even being at a higher standing point because, unlike canon, Deku had a quirk, being the first in his class to have one in general. Due to this, he was on a pedestal, people like Bakugo starting to fill his head a little bit, gassing him up to the entire class during his childhood. This would go on till he's about 6 years old or so, Deku's quirk having grown a little bit since he was born, his tail growing and getting thicker, pause. Deku being second strongest in the class behind Bakugo. Though, this is only because Deku had never seen the full moon. Just kinda never being around to see it. Either that or being asleep, you know. Either way, this would all change on Deku's 7th birthday. Hisashi, having come home from work and having time off, would want to go for a family camping trip, deciding to take them to the outskirts of the city. Deku's mad excited by this, never having gone on a trip before. They would all get packed up and split, driving an hour or two out before they would set up their camp and just go on a mission, you know. Deku, Hisashi, and Inko would all run through the forest. Deku would use his tail to swing from tree to tree, climbing to the top of the tree canopy with no fear of falling. They would just have a good day, doing hella activities, having fun, and just wasting a lot of energy, you know. This would of course cause Deku to be mad sleepy, barely awake as they were cooking dinner. Inko and Hisashi would watch as Deku would fall asleep, eating their dinner and deciding to leave him asleep because he looked kinda comfy. Time would tick on and Deku would still be knocked out, time going from about 6 PM to about midnight. Deku would wake up as the ground shook a little bit. Wincing his eyes as in the distance he saw a weird little light show. He put it off in his head, scratching his neck and yawning before getting up. He looked around the campfire for any spare food he could find, but there was nothing. He shrugs, walking over to the river in front of him, about to go to the toilet until he saw the reflection of the night sky and the calm water in front of him. He smiles a little bit. Whoa, what's that? Looking down at the reflection of the full moon glistening. He follows the light path it reflected, staring off into the distance before passing the light and looking directly up. The night sky was empty, stars littering a completely cloudless sky. He sits there and smiles, taking it all in. Whoa, it's so pretty. He starts counting stars until he finally clocks it. The moon. The smile on his face slowly fades. Head stuck looking into the night sky, muscles locked into one position. Hisashi would wake up, looking over to Deku confused. Hey, Izuku, you okay over there? He stares up looking at the moon. Oh, you want me to explain what that is? He gets up, stretching a little bit before walking over, looking down at a completely still Deku. Midoriya? He waves his hand in front of Deku's face, but still nothing. He turns back, going to get his phone for a flashlight, completely oblivious as Deku begins transforming behind him. His teeth would grow, skin growing hairy, and tail multiplying in size. Deku's dimly lit shadow creeping over Hisashi's entire body. He slowly turned to look at a fully realized Deku stood in waiting. He looks in horror, seeing a huge ass monkey where Deku stood. What the? No, Deku, what? He looks around him, finding nothing, looking back at the monkey. No, there's no way, it can't be. The monkey would stare off into space like Deku, until it twitched. Anger and intrinsic need to destroy welling up inside of him. He grabs onto his head, tearing between Deku and the great ape until it would consume him. From there was a blur, but I'm pretty sure you know what's up. Deku none the wiser as he goes on a complete rampage, which I'll get back to later. From there, Deku would waking up in a hospital room, his eyes smashed by a bright white light from above him, slowly blinking back into consciousness. Daytime already? He opens his eyes fully, seeing bright lights surrounding him. I thought I was... Where's Mum and Dad? The doctor's confused hearing this. Mum and Dad? You were brought here by a severely injured hero. Do you even know what happened at all, kid? You don't remember a single thing? Deku shakes his head, watching as the police commissioner comes into his room. You know that one cop with the lie detector quirk? He sits next to Deku, taking his hat off. Kid, I need you to tell me everything you know. From there, Deku would explain his situation, telling him that he was out camping with his mum and dad, that he fell asleep because he played too long, and that after that was a blur. The policeman doesn't detect any lies, dispatching a team over to scan the area as Deku would heal up. Like you would expect, they find Inko and Hisashi, and let's just say they're 6 foot under. Deku completely clueless on how it happened. The police unaware, with the only witness to it in a coma and unresponsive. Deku from there would be dispatched about a week or so later, being put into foster care as they tried to search for what happened. They find nothing, and Deku would stay in foster care for a solid amount of time, people being completely clueless until a certain someone would wake up. Right away they get to the police, telling them what happened, linking the entire story together. The police hearing this are horrified, getting Nezu along with Eraserhead on standby to be shipped out ASAP. The police searching through records, trying desperately to find Deku. This will go on for about a day or two, the heroes on full alert trying to find him until Eraserhead would figure it out. Right away he's taken out of the foster care, being treated extra nice, getting bought chocolates and stuff before being taken into a room with the same police officer as before. He sits down, being surrounded by Eraserhead along with Nezu and a tall, skinny man that looked horrified. Everyone sits and questions Deku, the tall skinny man listening intently on what he said, replaying what happened that night over and over in his head. They would of course find nothing, deciding to get Deku's quirk tested that day just to be sure, bringing in a proper specialist, Dr. Latrell. Yeah, the goat's coming back. They walk into the quirk doctor's office, dead silent. Nezu and the others speaking behind bulletproof glass. Nezu would speak up. So, is it really as strong as you say it is? And does he know about it too? The tall man would nod, listening in as the doctor puts his hand on Deku's shoulder before looking into his left eye. An image of Deku's quirk would appear in his head, the doctor reading it like a little video game description before his face goes serious. He looks back to the heroes behind the glass door, looking distraught, eyes wide, telling him to come back inside without saying a single word. Now, Deku would be taken back outside, being taken away by a nurse or something to get snacks or something as the rest of the heroes talk. In the room, Nezu would speak up. So, what's the diagnosis, doctor? Is it what we think it is? The doctor would turn to them to speak. Yeah, it matched what you said pretty well, though it seems it only works during a full moon. How it hasn't come out till now is honestly a miracle. The tall, skinny man looks horrified. He remembers back to that night, thinking back there was a full moon. He sweeps the image from his mind, asking what's going to happen to him now. Nezu at first wanting to take him to UA, but it might be a danger to all the other students. All of them deciding there and then that Aizawa would be the perfect mentor for the kid instead. So yeah, Deku from there would be going to live with Aizawa, still completely ignorant on how his parents died, being told it was like a villain attack or something, and that he got knocked out in his sleep and did not remember a single thing. He just kind of accepts this, mourning his parents' death a little bit before fully moving in with Aizawa. Now, I'm a time skip from here, Deku going from the age of 7 to the age of 14, living with Aizawa and training day in and day out on both martial arts, along with mindfulness, trying to teach him at a young age to subconsciously control himself. Over the years, he would ask Aizawa how his quirk works, getting more and more info on it as the time would go on, figuring out it relied on full moon and that when it was active, Deku loses his mind. He notes this down, continuing his training until one day, around 10 months until the UA entrance exam, Deku would be taken somewhere, taken far away by the faculty of UA. They drive with him for about an hour or so, going far out to where they test bombs and stuff, somewhere that no one was. He's told that today they're going to be testing his quirk, being given a device that sat in his wrist and told to run as far away as possible. Deku would do so, the wrist device clicking on and relaying a message that Nezu was speaking to him. Okay, now, as you know, your quirk works by looking at a full moon. But I have a theory on that. To test that, I made this device. It lets off a small sample of the same radio wave that the full moon emits. My hope is that using it will allow you to partially transform instead of fully. Deku would kinda get it, nodding before being told to look at the wrist device. The screen goes black before beaming a bright white light from it. The heroes and teachers about a kilometer away, watching as Deku would once again lock up, going completely unresponsive to all the messages blaring through the watch, completely ignorant before beginning to transform. Everyone watches in horror, seeing as Deku doesn't just partially transform. He fully does. His body growing to the size of a small mountain, Deku screaming out as it happened. The teachers look on shocked, Aizawa wincing a little bit. Holy crap, it really is as scary as he said. One particular pro having flashbacks of that night 7 years ago. Now, if you didn't get the foreshadowing already, that tall lanky man was of course All Might. And if you didn't get it thus far, let me explain. 7 years ago, when Deku was first transforming, All Might was in a fight for his life against All for One. The light show off in the distance being the beginning of their fight. Deku ignored this, transforming and going on a rampage. This was fine until Deku started making a beeline for the big flashing lights in the sky. All Might and All for One mid-fight until the ground shook, lights flickering on before smashing, wind stopping around them. The two of them stopped, still locked together, turning and staring at the creature that was coming towards them. All Might, already tired, looks at All for One. Cheap trick, All for One. You couldn't beat me alone, so you brought backup, huh? All for One claps and smiles. You would only wish I brought backup. I have no clue who that ape is. They're about to go back to fighting until the monkey notices them, locking in on All Might. Now, All Might and All for One weren't injured yet. Their fight hadn't gotten that far yet, so they were both pretty confident. This is until Deku would swing his fist at All Might, a swing so quick that he couldn't dodge it. The huge ape slams All Might into the chest, slamming him backwards and ragdolling him through the building. He then turns to All for One, who was charging an attack. Looking at it as he released it, Deku and his ape form would stare it down, waiting for it to come close before swatting it away like a fly. The attack collides with his hand and ricochets off, bouncing and destroying a small town behind him. All for One shocked. Who are about to finish until his vision goes red. What? He summons as many force fields as he could. Not quick enough though, getting slammed by a punch by Deku, sending him flying too. Deku would scream and beat his chest, civilians running away full speed as All Might gets back up. He would cough some blood, staring Deku down and going back into fight. He tries to outspeed Deku, running around him and using his big size against him, but it wasn't enough. Once again he's found. This time though, Deku wasn't playing around. In his berserk state, Deku would pick up All Might, grabbing him by his two fingers and beginning to crush him. All Might's stomach ruptures, his lungs cooked like in cannon, and his buff form all but gone as he's slammed to the floor. All for One seeing this smiles, sending out tendrils to try and take one for all until Deku would notice him again too. He grabs the tendrils midway through, protecting All Might before yanking All for One closer. All for One flies over, completely out of control of where his body was going. He tries to stop himself, using multiple force quirks to equal it out, but he couldn't. Deku's power was way too much. He grabs onto All for One, putting him into his hand and balling up his fist. All for One screams in pain, blood trickling out of his hand before he too is slammed into the floor, slamming down face first. Deku in this timeline giving them both their signature scars and injuries, forcing the two of them to fire off their most powerful attacks simultaneously to take him down, forcing two of the opposites to work together. Though they both have to leave almost instantly after the fight, All for One being teleported away and All Might being taken off the battlefield by Gran Torino, who would rush back and pick up an unconscious Deku before All for One could get to him. Something that saved the entire human race pretty much. Like, All Might reliving this moment shudders in fear, seeing the great ape Deku in front of him ready to rage once more. The scar on his side burns seeing Deku, bad memories causing anger for a second before he calms himself down. He looked to Aizawa who had his quirk ready. Well Nezu, tell me when. Nezu smiles. Not yet, I want to see if his training's made any progress. They watch as Deku thrashes, punching the earth, slamming into mountains and tweaking out. Before Deku got a sense of self, even for a split second, he looked around him, feeling his humanity returning a little bit, feeling present in the moment before Aizawa was forced to erase his quirk. Deku wakes up a full day later in the bed once more, looking around him to see no one but Aizawa. So kid, how was it? You remember anything? Deku looks at him. I actually do. I remember seeing all of you. You look like ants. You were all so small. It kind of felt like a dream too. Aizawa hearing this is kind of excited. Damn kid, I didn't think you had it in you. Guess we gotta train you up more. In his head, low-key scared shitless. From there on, Deku would train, going the next 10 months doing just that. Using the moonlight to transform or using his watch that he was given. For the first 6 months, they would need every single faculty member a UA, just in case he thrashes away, Aizawa being paid extra overtime. Deku for these 6 months would be nothing but a mindless beast in this state, almost shattering nearby cities with just his roar alone. until around the 7th month in, where Deku would once again get a sense of himself. Midway through thrashing around, he would feel his arms, his body. He could feel the wind coursing around him from every angle, feeling the tiny vibrations of all the heroes around him, hearing them breathe, hearing them speak. All the information flooded into his brain at once, the heroes stopping and staring as Deku for once would sit still. Finally, with a lead they would keep on going, trying to replicate it for the next 3 months, finding it had a lot to do with headspace and mentality pre-transformation. If he had even the slightest bit of anger, his great ape form would wrath and tear at the earth. So, in this time, they would get him to spill every single grievance he had, getting all of his bad thoughts off his chest, eventually feeling comfy enough and calm enough to fully control it, which he would. Just in time for the UA entrance exam. He wakes up the next day, stretching before going to the entrance exam, to his surprise getting stopped at the door, heroes not letting him in. He starts making a bit of a fuss before Nezu would come personally to come explain it. Due to him living there, they don't need to see any theory score. They know he's smart already. And because they've been training him for the past year, they know what he's capable of, deciding to just pass him off bat. Now, at first Deku's angry at this, but, less effort. Due to this, I'm completely skipping this part. Deku training in this time instead, training in his Grape Ape form versus people like Endeavor and even All Might. They would find out about his weakness, about the whole tail being cut off thing, but I'm not going to mention that, ever again, so shove that to the back of your mind. From there, school would finally begin, Deku getting his fit on, looking clean before walking into the school from the back, and completely missing the front gate, slipping past the rush and getting right into class. For once, Deku was early, looking around the place, seeing Aizawa on the floor, cracking a smirk, before turning to find a seat. As he turns, he would see one more kid there, the only other kid that arrived this early. Feet on the desk, scrolling at his phone. Deku stares at him for a second before giving him a bit of an up and down look before he goes to approach him. Bakugo doesn't even lift his head, seeing Deku walk over in his peripherals. Not interested, extra. Go sit in the corner and have a scroll like a normal person. Deku, hearing this, instantly has a dislike for Bakugo. Aizawa on the floor worried for a split second before Deku would speak up. I'm gonna turn around and turn back again. Miss me with the attitude the second time around, yeah? Bakugo, hearing this, turns his phone off, dropping it into his lap, sitting and staring. Watching on as Deku would turn to the front of the class, walking out of the classroom before spinning and re-entering again. As he walks in, he stares around, seeing Bakugo standing, mouth agape, fist balled and shaking. Aizawa watching from the floor as Deku would speak up again. What's up with you? Catching flies or something? He looks over to Aizawa. Morning, Aizawa. Hope the rest of the class isn't like this. Aizawa on the floor cracks a grin, turning to hide it from Bakugo, who was seething. He starts flaring explosions in his hand. I can already tell I'm not gonna like you. Screw it. Why don't we start the year off with a bang? He goes to jump at Deku, who drops into a fighting stance, about to throw straight hands with Bakugo until Aizawa would stand up, cancelling both their quirks from the front of the class. I would advise you both sit down before the others. He's cut off by about 6 people coming through the door, all turning to him and staring blankly. Aizawa with his hair up, Bakugo midway through pushing a desk over, and Deku with his fist cocked back. They feel the tension in the air, walking inside as Deku and Bakugo would chill out, looking at Aizawa, who stares them down. They walk in and introduce himself, the rest of the class coming in and finding their seats. Deku having his seat found by Aizawa, being sat right next to Bakugo just to piss him off. The two of them don't even look at each other, the class noticing this right away. Anyways, enough yap. From there, Aizawa would introduce himself and tell them to go get dressed, telling him to follow Deku to the changing rooms. Deku sighs, standing up and waving them all over. Everyone would hop up, starting to follow. People talking amongst themselves before Mineta would point out Deku's tail, comparing him and the other tail. Bam! Ojiro. Deku does a quick glance over and laughs. Real shit, don't ever compare me to this bum again. They would all get dressed and meet outside, Deku not being thrown the ball in this timeline. Instead, he sits in the crowd, watching as Bakugo through it, getting about 800 meters like in canon. I don't see him training or anything, so his quirk wouldn't be too crazy. From there, the rest of the tests would go on, Deku using his tail for extra movement, helping in the sprint, side to side, long jump and even the grip strength. People not really caring about Deku too much, he isn't crazy, let's be real. He's just got a monkey tail. Well, that's what they think anyway. In the end, Deku would get about 9th place, still being solid enough to get into the top 10, a score that he low-key wasn't mad at until he hears Bakugo chirping. Wow, that really was easy. I think you had all that bark before in the classroom. 10th place? You're just an extra. Deku laughs. You wish. I didn't even use my quirk yet, or you would have been my bitch. He's cut off by Aizawa, clapping him in the back of the head with his scarf, telling everyone to shut up and go to orientation, keeping Deku back, sending the rest of the class off as he reprimands Deku. Now, because of what Deku said, I can see people like Todoroki, Momo, Ida, and Bakugo taking it serious. The others not really. Bakugo in his head being like, didn't even use my quirk. What does that even mean? They have all the time in the world to think about it, sitting through that boring ass orientation before going back to class, finding someone waiting for them in the classroom. Deku. Of course, Bakugo, as soon as he sees this, is pissed. What the hell are you still doing here, monkey? Get that smug look off your face. He walks over pissed, sitting next to him and like groaning and shit, plopping himself down and staring forward as Deku smirk from the side. What the hell are you smiling at? And what the hell did you mean you didn't use your quirk? Deku's about to speak up before he thinks about what Aizawa said, how he reprimanded him. Well, never mind, I was just being cocky. He looks away, Bakugo getting the feeling that he was lying. Before he could press him more about it though, they're distracted. Distracted seeing a man they would have never expected. All Might rushing through the door like a normal person. They're all hype. Everyone bar Deku looks down at him. Whoa, you're teaching us, All Might? All Might scans the place, recognizing the voice before seeing Deku. Ah, young Midoriya. I was surprised to see your name on the list too. Good to see you again. The class all have disgusted faces on, staring at Deku jealous. Anyway, from there they'll be told to go outside, walking over to Ground Gamma after getting their hero costumes on, meeting All Might there who looks around. The clothes really do make the pros. All of you look very heroic, except for you, Todoroki. You gotta fix that shit. Todoroki in the back's just like, whatever. From there they get paired up, All Might telling them to come get a ball and pairing them accordingly. Deku, like usual, would be paired with Uraraka versing Ida and Bakugo. Now, if he went Great Ape, the entire building and Ground Gamma would be cooked. So once again he's told to hold back, taking off his watch and walking into the building with just his tail. He talks to Uraraka a little bit, telling her about himself, how he's trained with Aizawa for a while now, and that it shouldn't be too hard to win. She's kinda glad hearing this, walking into the building behind him. They rush around the first floor pretty quickly because, you know, he's been trained by Aizawa. Dipping right to the second floor. As soon as he does this, he smells something. His senses being heightened would let him smell Bakugo coming towards him. He smirks and looks at Uraraka. A rat's coming down the stairs. I'll meet you at the third floor. Give me a minute. I'm gonna take him out really quick. She nods, continuing up the stairs as Deku would rear the second, walking into the middle of the floor and sitting down. People on the screen are confused. Is that kid taking a nap or something? All Might confused too until Bakugo would drop from the third floor. Where is that little... He drops, seeing Deku waiting for him already. There he is. Cocky little shit. He blasts into Deku, spinning himself around in circle midair so it was harder for Deku to see him. Getting closer and closer with every explosion. Getting a huge one readied up in his palm. Deku would finally stand up, Bakugo about 4 meters away and quickly approaching. He stares him down with a smirk on his face, dropping down into Aizawa's fighting stance. Momo in the back of the class looks perplexed. That looks like Mr. Aizawa's fighting style. Tailbomb in the back of the class watching it intently as Deku sprung into action. As Bakugo came in, Deku would pounce right, using his tail to bounce him away while rolling Bakugo's huge right hook. Bakugo would go flying right past him, exploding where Deku would have been, his vision now covered in a huge smoke screen. Damn it, quit running and fight me! Deku takes these words to heart. While Bakugo was blinded, he dips down, going behind the smoke and using his 2 legs plus his tail to jump right through the smoke screen. Bakugo, unaware, getting socked in the jaw with an elbow from the bottom ropes, flinging him backwards and setting him looking for God. He stumbles back, clenching his jaw and exploding his fist. Pissed, he looked down at Deku, seeing him already halfway around him with the capture tape. No way, this kid's quick! He explodes backwards, sending his arm out and setting a flash grenade in Deku's face, blinding him for a quick second as he jumps back. Bakugo would start breathing quick, catching his breath as Deku rubs his eyes. You gotta remember, Deku has extra good senses, so that shit hurt. As he's rubbing his eyes, Bakugo would smirk. Oh, you didn't like that flash grenade much, did ya? He jumps back in, flying into Deku who is still out of it, exploding a shot right in his face that makes a smoke screen, jumping over his head and slamming Deku with an explosion from the back. Deku feels the hairs on his neck stand up pre-explosion, knowing he was getting snuck from behind. Before he's hit by the explosion, he throws his arm back behind him, protecting his head before his tail reached out, grabbing onto Bakugo's ankle. As he's sent flying from the explosion, Bakugo too is dragged, Deku's tail having slammed him into the floor. That damn tail, it's that damn tail! Both of them get up, staring each other down. They were both hurt about the same, both liking the fight a lot more than they let on. How about I turn up the gas? He sends his arms out, blowing explosions that get bigger and bigger by the second. Deku's smile growing as he does this. Go on then, just know I'm still gonna win! They once again go into the middle. This time they sit and box, the two of them duking out in the middle. Bakugo using his explosions to overpower Deku, with Deku using his fighting style and his tail to keep up. He would use his tail to deflect some hits, parrying some almost KO attacks until Bakugo's gauntlets would finally fill, then pulsating red as he jumps back. Finally, he stares Deku down, smile on his face. You're quick. Let's see if you can dodge something like this though. He puts his arm up, All Might coming over the intercom. No, Bakugo, don't! Everyone watches as the end glows white, Bakugo having finally pulled the pin. Deku stares it down, looking like a deer in headlights. No, what? Where'd this even come from? He stares it down as it gets bigger and bigger, brighter and brighter, before boom! He feels the shockwave going through his body, watching in almost slow motion as the explosion comes roaring towards him. He couldn't dodge. Instinctively his arms come up to try and shield him, but they were still too slow. He watches as within about 1 second left, he's saved. Not even able to see as All Might rushes from the observatory room into the prac site, standing in the way of the explosion and tanking it for Deku. Deku with his hands in the way flinches before looking up, the explosion never having hit him. All Might stares Bakugo down with a menacing look on his face. Young Bakugo, do you know what would have just happened if that attack would have just hit right now? All Might looking deadly serious. He stares Bakugo down, who shudders a little bit. Yeah, whatever. He goes to walk off, but he's stopped by All Might grabbing onto his arm. No, this has gone far enough. I heard the two of you were bickering by Aizawa, but to this extent, over what? The rest of the class watching as All Might chews Bakugo out. Because the observatory doesn't have any sound at all they can do is watch. Watching as Bakugo's face goes from sorry to pissed at All Might. Over what? That damn loser telling me he didn't even use his quirk. Why does he already get special privileges, huh? All the teachers treat him different. It's bull. Deku from behind All Might stands up. You're still mad about that? You really almost killed me over that. Hell nah. If you want to see it, I'll show it to you. All Might's eyes going wide, remembering back to 7 years ago. Right away, he bitches it, pleading to Deku, telling him it's fine, cancelling the match from there, and giving them the win. People are of course confused by this. They saw the situation and kind of understand the stoppage, but what were they arguing about the whole time? Bakugo walks back into the observatory, still pissed. Thinking back, he needed to see Deku's quirk, and he was going too soon. From there, about a week or so goes by. Deku and the class staying in about the same dynamic. Bakugo and Deku still sat next to each other, kind of just ignoring each other's existence pretty much. Until the day of the USJ. Everyone having their sheets signed and everything, getting onto the bus and kind of just chilling. Deku sitting there doom scrolling until, like you would think, Froppy would speak up, calling Deku out and asking in particular about something he said a while ago, that he wasn't using his quirk. People like Momo and Todoroki lock in, hearing this. Bakugo's ears perking up too, trying to play it cool as he eavesdrops. Deku looks at the front of the bus, looking at Aizawa, who closes his eyes, taking a huge breath in before nodding at Deku. Deku would smile a little bit, clearing his throat and explaining at least a little bit of his quirk, telling him about his grade 8 form and how he transforms when he sees the full moon, keeping his watch hidden just in case, you know. He explains how he awakened it as a kid and how he's been at UA for a while now, learning how to control it. It all clicks in Bakugo's head. All the stuff he said, all the teachers treating him different, All Might's pleading, it all made sense. He notes it down, questions flooding his head that he decided to keep to himself for now. From there they would make it to the USJ, walking inside. Deku in this timeline is not looking around. He'd been here before, having come here with Aizawa as a kid from time to time. He stares 13 down instead, listening to her speech for about as long as he could before something piques his interest, my bad. In his left ear he starts hearing something. The faint whooshing of wind. It sounded strange, distorted. He tilts his head a little bit, looking down and squinting a little bit. What the? He looks, as like you would think, Korigiri appears, smile growing over Deku's face before he locks in. All the training from Aizawa going through his head. Aizawa, villains, 9 o'clock, one's a warp type. We probably shouldn't stand in a big group like this. Aizawa looks down, seeing the villains Deku was talking about finally appearing. He nods, calling for 13 to rush the class outside. Everyone doing so. Deku staying behind, along with some of the top students like Kirishima, Bakugo, and Todoroki. Aizawa jumps down, calling for Deku to follow, which he would of course oblige to. He rushes next to Aizawa, smile on his face. About time we got to beat some villains together. Aizawa's face was serious. Not the time, kid. In his head, Loki thinking the exact same thing. Smile kinda creeping over his face, which he tries to hide. The two of them rush in, Deku lunging in and throwing straight hands, using Aizawa's erasure to help him keep the edge on him. He uses his special martial arts along with his extra movement to help Aizawa body the fodder. Korigiri telling up to the top in this time, only to find 3 students left. Now, because they knew he was about to come up, Bakugo and Kirishima would jump up, Todoroki freezing the entirety of Korigiri, freezing his metal part and giving the other 2 a good chance to strike. They would lunge in, Bakugo sending a huge explosion at it and Kirishima sending a swipe down his chest. Korigiri feels this, getting banged by 3 attacks at once, getting knocked out cold. The 3 of them going back to looking over the edge as Deku and Aizawa make short work of the villains. Shigaraki sees this from the back, standing next to the Nomu. Who the hell is that kid? He has a school uniform on, so why is he working so well with Aizawa? It doesn't make sense. He looks around him, seeing the villains who had been teleported to the other sections completely motionless, not fighting anyone, nothing. Wait, and where are the students? Korigiri, you better not have been caught. He sits and watches for another like 20 seconds, watching as the tag team in front of him continue forward. Korigiri nowhere in sight. That's it. I'm done waiting around. Nomu, Kill Aizawa. He's clearly carrying that little monkey with the tail quirk. The Nomu snaps its neck at Aizawa, locking its eyes on him as he smiles with its bird beak. Deku with his extra senses feels it moving, feeling the ground shake with every step. Aizawa, look! He's cut off, watching as the Nomu appeared from thin air in front of him, about to slam Aizawa with a punch had it not been for someone getting in the way. Deku jumps up, jumping in the way of the punch and getting slammed into the staircase behind him. He looks at his stomach, completely cooked. He feels the inside of his body sloshing around, all disconnected and broken. Aizawa looks at him completely horrified. No, what happened? The three from the top are horrified too. Bakugo speaking up. No, there's no way. All Might was... Get up, Deku! Where's that stupid quirk of yours now? He flies off, explosions ramping up, sending himself shooting down the staircase and sending a monster explosion right at the Nomu's face. The Nomu tanking it completely. You gotta remember, Wolf One in this time's already seen Deku's power. He knows how strong it is, and due to the heroes getting to Deku before him, he prepared just in case. Due to this, the Nomu is at least 2 times stronger than in canon. The explosion that Bakugo does legitimately nothing to him. Shigaraki from the back starts laughing. Hey, good punch, Nomu. That might have actually killed him. Now, change of target. Kill the explosion boy next. The Nomu locks in on Bakugo. Bakugo unaware as the Nomu readies its fist once more. Bakugo about to be hit until All Might comes screaming in. Keep your hands off my students! He catches the Nomu's punch mid-punch, cracking his arm a little bit by the force of it. Deku from the floor looking up, blood trickling from his mouth. All Might. Shigaraki looks over. Ah yes, the main attraction. I was worried you wouldn't be here, so I started putting some kids' lives on the line. Hope you don't worry. All Might's eyes go serious. You do all this just to get me to come here? You're sick. He throws the Nomu back, feeling his arm creak with every punch. Looking over to Deku, seeing his almost limp, lifeless body. He sees his stomach. No, how did it? Before he feels his arm. All Might knew he only had a couple of punches left before it was cooked. Midway through thinking, the Nomu comes in, cocking its arm back and going to slam All Might. All Might barely seeing this, dodging out of its way, watching as the Nomu's fist slams into the floor, sending a tremor throughout the USJ. How strong is that thing? He jumps back, getting his distance from the creature in front of him. Shigaraki speaking up once more. What's wrong, All Might? Can't take it? All that power and you still can't do anything. All Might thinking the same thing until he looked to his right, watching as Aizawa tended to Deku. It's okay, he's breathing. I got your back. You just worry about taking that thing out. He cancels the Nomu's quirk as it jumps in another time, thrashing around and throwing punches indiscriminately. Deku on the floor comes in and out of consciousness, watching snippets of the battle. All Might overpowering the Nomu coming back, the Nomu breaking All Might's arm, and eventually the Nomu locking back in on Aizawa. He stares from the floor completely useless as the Nomu fakes a punch towards All Might. All Might going to dodge before he gets duked. The Nomu instead continuing forward, rushing at Aizawa instead. Aizawa can't dodge, Deku watching as he too is ricocheted against the staircase. To make myself clear by the way, because I don't know if that writing made sense. So far, they got to the USJ, Deku and Aizawa jumped down to fight, they boxed some of the fodder for a minute or two, and then Deku got snuck by the Nomu. Bakugo jumped down trying to be a hero, getting himself almost knocked out until All Might saved him. All Might and the Nomu boxed for a little bit until the Nomu went for Aizawa, who just got smacked in front of Deku's eyes. That's where we're at now. Deku on the floor is more angry than he's ever been, his anger consuming him, filling his gut and willing himself to move just one thing. His arm. He slowly moves it, getting closer and closer to the front of him, no one aware as he does so, staring at something that was barely functional. His watch. It flicked to life, showing the moon screen for about a second before it turned off. This second was more than enough though. All Might mid-fight would feel it, dread taking over his body. He feels the air changing. Something felt familiar. A chill goes down Bakugo and Todoroki's spine, the two of them feeling it, staring around before they finally see it. Deku stared at his wrist, staring at a now blank watch screen. His face twists and contorts, a rage-filled laugh taking over as he begins to transform. All Might stares backwards. No, there's no way. He gets PTSD flashbacks before straight up dipping, grabbing onto Aizawa, Todoroki and Bakugo in one stride and taking him to the top of the staircase as quick as possible. He stares down from above. I'm getting out of here. Let him take care of things from here. Trust me, we do not want to be here. He drops them all off, Bakugo and Todoroki drawn like a moth to a flame. They stare inside the USJ, about 20 meters outside of it, watching as all of a sudden a huge monkey comes from nowhere. The two of them watching as it eclipses the side of the USJ, slamming out the top and shattering every pane of glass. He roars completely out of control, directing all his anger at the Nomu. Shigaraki watches. What the? Who the hell is this thing? I thought he had a tail quirk. Nomu, get him! The Nomu rushes at him, attacking Deku's leg, which does nothing. Deku's leg scratched slightly if anything. Deku would look down, completely out of it, staring at the Nomu below him, grabbing him like an ant. The Nomu thrashes in his hand, Bakugo and Todoroki sitting horrified, unable to move, watching as Deku squished him, between his fingers, splattering him all over the floor, walls, and ceiling. Deku roaring to the heavens, steel support beams around the USJ creaking and cracking, the floor ripping open. Aizawa on All Might's back, waking up slightly hearing this, seeing Deku's transformation in the distance. Bakugo and Todoroki stare on as the Nomu regens itself, trying desperately to get out of Deku's grasp. Deku feels it fighting for his grip, clenching his fingers tighter and tighter before slamming the Nomu to the floor. The USJ floor tears open, students who are about 100 meters away feeling as the entire block shook. Bakugo and Todoroki finally deciding to dip, feeling the structure of the USJ about to crumble. They both rush off as quick as possible, feeling Deku in the background just tearing into the earth. He slammed the spot where the Nomu was at, going deeper and deeper into the earth, landing a barrage of attacks so hard it eventually reaches lava. Shigaraki watching from the sidelines, staring around a tumbling USJ, running away from Deku who had completely obliterated his master's best work. He curses out Deku, "You cheated! I'll kill you for this! I'll kill you!" Deku finally snapping back into his senses, taking control over his body as he stared Shigaraki down. Having heard that last sentence, he decided to treat Shigaraki as a casualty, slamming a punch down onto Shigaraki which would instantly obliterate him, turning him into a stain. So, the Nomu's dead, Shigaraki's dead, and Korogiru's dead due to like USJ falling over him and stuff, like he gets crushed. After that, Deku loses his transformation, fur falls off, tail shrinks, and Deku converts back to his regular self. Out cold on the floor, wounds slightly healed. He's grabbed by a search party after the fact, taken to the hospital alongside Aizawa and All Might, sleeping the afternoon and night off before sleeping through the entirety of the next day too. The USJ incident is kept hush-hush from the media, Nezu pulling every single string he could to keep it under wraps, but one person still snitches. Aoyama. That afternoon, as Deku was in a comatose state in the hospital, Aoyama would scurry off, doing some rat activities, going to the Camino War bar and approaching a pissed All For One. They begin chatting, Aoyama explaining what happened before All For One stops him. "So, you saw a big ape, did you?" Aoyama nods, All For One clenching his fist in rage. "And you said he killed my protege and the warp villain?" He grits his teeth. "So them damn heroes did get to him. Well, that isn't good for me at all." His creepy ass Play-Doh face starts contorting, shaping itself into a wicked smile, staring off into the distance, thinking up a final plan to take Deku's quirk for himself once and for all. As he's thinking up this plan, Deku would be recovering. He sleeps for a solid 4 days straight, being woken up and feeling sore on his entire body, opening his eyes slowly, wincing in pain before dropping his head to the left. As he does this, he sees Aizawa sitting up reading a book next to him. He smiles, speaking a little bit faint. "How long has it been?" Aizawa's eyes go wide, staring at Deku. "Whoa, you're awake?" 4 days. How you feeling?" Deku sits up slowly, cracking his neck. "Sore, I'm not gonna lie. I don't even remember transforming." He completely hides the part of him killing Shigaraki, deciding that he'd rather not get locked up, taking that shit to the grave. Aizawa looks at him. "Well, I'm kinda glad you did. I don't know if you remember this, but both of us got messed up pretty bad. If I'm being honest, I'm shocked you're still alive." Deku looks down at his chest, seeing a huge X scar like Luffy's. He puts a hand over it, feeling it sear in pain. He winces a little bit, laying back down before taking a huge breath out. In his head, thinking of one thing. I gotta get stronger. After about 4 more days, Deku was finally released from the hospital. Aizawa kind of filling him in on what school stuff he didn't get to do, which sadly would cut him out of the UA Sports Festival. Low-key, I wanted to skip it because, yeah, I got something better planned. And, you know, he couldn't really use his transformation anyway. He would just probably, like, killed someone? There's no way. Deku returns back to class after the week and a bit off, being told by a still recovering Aizawa to not push himself. Walking inside a little bit late on a Tuesday morning. As soon as he walks in, people stop and stare, Bakugo looking horrified. All Might looks from the front, dropping the pen he was holding. Young Midoriya, you're back already?" From the back of the class, Bakugo speaks up. "Dude, no way. I thought you died." Deku looks over to him, seeing him a lot calmer now. Having seen Deku being beat within an inch of his life, along with him transforming in the same day, was finally enough to knock some sense into him. Deku would sit down, the two of them silent as All Might explains this week was purely dedicated to training. Because of the USJ, the entire UA curriculum had to be changed. This would also get rid of work studies, but who cares? This also means Ida survives. Yeah, woof. They would all kind of get it. Following All Might out to the same open space that Deku used to train at. Deku seeing the barren, flat landscape, kind of getting deja vu, memories flooding back from his younger years here. The class would spread out, doing the same training they did in the training camp pretty much, but spending the next week or so doing it. Deku in this time knows he can't really train with anyone around, so instead he would wander a little bit further off, walking about 1 kilometer away from people, sitting and meditating. This wasn't to calm himself or anything though. Deku was trying to get closer to his power. He has somewhat control over his ape form, but it takes too long to activate, and the whole looking at the full moon thing is a bit of a pain. He remembers back to the USJ, thinking of the beating he got from the Nomu. In his mind, he would brainstorm ideas, ways for him to transform quicker, ways for him to use his quirk outside of him just like bombing and nuking everyone around him. Deku would get lost in deep thought, sitting in the dry, sandy patch of earth completely out of sight of anyone else. He would sit there for 2 days straight, not eating or drinking even a little bit. In this time he comes to a revelation. He thinks to how his quirk works, thinking back to every conversation he's ever had with Aizawa or Nezu about it. They'd always described it as if it was like two separate entities. He's been seeing his great ape form as more of a dark shadow in his head, more of a monster to access than a quirk to rely on, you know. Coming to this revelation, Deku would wake up. Looking around the area around him, he saw the dusty, barren landscape as before, but below him, like a shadow, was a circle of grass. A single circle of grass in an otherwise barren spot. He was confused by this, wondering what even happened, pushing it to the back of his mind before locking back in. Now, of course he's going to eat and stuff, so he would do that right after, but after that he would rush back to the same spot, getting into his fighting stance and thinking, in his mind trying to merge both his body and his great ape form into one, which would work. Deku would feel it for a second. He felt like every cell in his body was shaking, tearing him from the inside out. His teeth grows a little bit and his tail thickens. The class in the distance noticing the wind changing directions, coming rushing towards him like All Might had just punched in their direction. Deku a kilometer away would fight to keep control, feeling like his head was split between two, feeling straight rage take over. The ground below him starts shaking, Deku's entire body tensing harder than it's ever tensed before, until Deku would once again get control. He drops to the floor, every muscle in his body shaking and spazzing. He rolls around on the floor until someone comes from behind. Aizawa. He stares at Deku from above, looking at him, screaming in pain. So you're gonna tell me what you were doing out here? I told you not to push yourself, didn't I? Deku stares up at him, taking a deep breath in before his muscles go limp. I'm sorry, Aizawa, I'll explain it later. Falling asleep there and then, being picked up and taken to Recovery Girl right away. Aizawa sitting with him until later that day he would wake up again. Aizawa staring at him. Good, you're up. Now, explain. Deku sighs, getting up from the bed and looking at Aizawa before beginning to explain. Now, I know Deku's been in the hospital a lot, and I know the timeline's changed a lot, but that was only to be able to do this. Deku being injured so many times and transforming so many times would have allowed his body to catch up. Deku having the great ape form along with a slight little Zenkai boost. Not one that makes him crazy OP. I want Deku to be about 5% one for all max in his physical state. He can outspeed most people, but he has trouble against people like Ida. And his power is that of about season 2 to 3 Deku, so pretty solid. With the extra muscle mass he put on, his body can finally contain all the energy that's been seeping out of him when he tries the new transformation, containing it all inside and allowing him to finally, fully manifest his wrath form. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about that yet, just note it down and continue. From there, Deku would return back to class, people noticing another aura change about him. He felt meaner, more animalistic than before. His training in the new form had a small impact on his psyche. He would sit down, kind of just scrolling for a little bit, chatting with some people in class about what he's training and stuff, until Aizawa comes in, telling him all about the final exams. Like you would think, they're all kind of bummed about this. I mean, who wants to do exams, low-key? They're told they have time to study and that the test will be in 2 days. Time skipped 2 days and Deku was ready. He walks into the exam site and sits down, passing the theory exam with flying colours, before walking out to the prac site. Like everyone else, Deku thought he was going to be versing robots, so he started warming up, only to be caught for a loop, being instead confronted by all of the faculty of UA. Like you would think, the class is split up into little groups, the teams being exactly like canon except for Deku and Bakugo. Bakugo is strong, but he's not Deku level strong, so instead he's put with someone else I don't really care. And so it works, so it would be another team of 3, Mineta, Invisible Girl and Jiro, the bomb trio. This leaves Deku solo, which will all make sense in a minute. Deku goes up to the observatory, wondering what his exam will be, sitting for a good like 40 minutes, watching all the others passing, failing, and overall just getting some good fights in, you know. Seeing this, he would get excited. His match was up next, and he still knew nothing about what he was about to do. All he knew was that he's about to throw some hands. He walks out of the camera room, walking downstairs and sitting at the starting gate of the exam site, still with no clue of who he was facing. He sits and waits, listening as the start bell goes off in the distance. Right away he smiles, looking around before getting serious right away. All the class watches on. No one had a clue who Deku was facing. Imagine the look on their faces when Deku comes up against every single teacher at UA. He sits in the fake city looking around until, like you would think, All Might comes in and smashes it to pieces, floor tearing up and flicking right at Deku's face. Seeing this, he smiles. Ah, so I'm versing All Might, huh? About to roll away until the cement below him started to soften, his feet slipping in. He looks around, seeing Cementos above a building trying to use his quirk to trap him. All Might in front of him and Ectoplasm making clones all around him. Seeing this and taking it all in, Deku makes makes a plan, jumping out of the floor by wrapping a support item he had around a pole, this being Aizawa's scarf. He swings himself out, flying towards an ectoplasm clone behind him, flying right at it and slamming it with a flying kick to the head, making it poof from existence right away. After this, he continues on, going on a rampage in his quirkless state, using his tail and his punches to straight up body all the clones. Some of the teachers watch from a distance, Aizawa smiling. Well, he's gotten stronger, that's for sure. Snipe sitting next to him. You can say that again. As they chat, Midnight goes in, rushing to his left while he is distracted, going for the kill. Deku, using his enhanced hearing, would jump away, seeing the smoke coming closer by the second. Thinking quick, Deku closes his eyes, still mid-flip in the air. He breathes in slowly, thinking back to his training, opening his eyes once more, channeling the great ape within and sending it outwards. The teachers around him, even those standing in the distance, feel the air shift, feeling straight up power coming from Deku. They all stare in the distance, watching as Deku glows green, looking like Broly. His energy flickering around him, all of his muscles tensed and bulging, veins popping on places he never knew possible. Pause. All of his cells scream to be freed from this. All of that energy compressed down into one small area left Deku feeling like he was constantly on fire, being locked in nonetheless. A smile grows over his face, demonic looking. He stares down Midnight. Right as the gas was coming near, Deku would drop to one knee before sending a monstrous clap. Every pane of glass in the city shatters, buildings shaking from pure force. Dust and smoke around him dissipates into nothing, clouds above him twisting and being pushed out. Midnight loses her footing, flying back and being saved by Aizawa using his scarf. Snipe, seeing Deku transform, knows he's got to end it quick. He aims 2 revolvers at Deku, aiming one at his neck and another at his temple. Knowing they won't pierce Deku, he shoots. The bullets explode, rushing top speeds towards Deku, who completely eats it, hearing the gunshot go off right away, doing nothing but standing still. He follows the trajectory of the snipe bullets back, seeing him perched back on the top of the building, hidden with a huge sign. Right away, Deku turns and shoots towards him, jumping like a rabid animal and tearing his fist through the sign. Snipe barely dodges, about to shoot again until Deku grabs his gun, twisting the nozzle and sending it to the sky before slamming him into the floor. Snipe goes through the floor, slamming down 3 stories before being knocked straight out. Deku, having done this, looks around. He'd taken care of Snipe and Midnight so far. Next was, before he can even do anything, he hears something to his left, thinking it was another ectoplasm clone, only to be slammed by a punch by the symbol of peace himself. All Might joining the battle would send a haymaker at Deku, the United States of Smash type of hit, you know. Deku takes this, getting flung into the floor and bouncing like a pebble being skipped across a lake. He stops himself, feeling his muscles tearing apart from keeping the form up for so long. He slams his fist into the floor, the searing pain getting worse and worse by the second. He feels every muscle twitching, almost asking for a rest, but he pushes on instead, looking towards All Might, this time with a wicked smile. Having used his Wrath form for so long, he begins losing it, the pain finally getting to him too much. He stares All Might down with the eyes of a killer, his energy bursting out of him before he rushed All Might again. The floor below him cracks, getting closer and closer to All Might by the second before slamming him with a punch to the chest. All Might barely reacts, sending his arm up and getting clipped and getting slammed down. All Might flies down, watching as Deku from above once again screams, screaming to the heavens. The class sees this, watching as Deku borderline bodied the #1 hero. They all stand in horror, Bakugo and Todoroki confused as hell. Where's the ape form? The others are confused a little bit too, remembering back to their chat on the bus. Yeah, I forgot about that. He looks normal to me. Mineta being like, you call that normal? Anyways, from there the fight would continue on. Deku, now nearing his end, would go after one person he think could be a problem, Aizawa. In the air he looks around, falling before locking in on Aizawa. Smile growing on his face before he kicks off the air itself. Aizawa's eyes going wide. He was about to use his quirk, but Deku was already there, his hand grabbing onto his face. Deku laughs a little bit. Submit, Aizawa. You know I got you beat. This is until Deku would fall down, his knee giving out along with his legs, dropping to the floor in front of Aizawa, his energy finally dissipating. Aizawa breathes heavy. Holy shit, kid. That was close. He drops to one knee, having just seen his life flash before his eyes, looking down at a now asleep Deku. So Deku would almost win. If he stayed for a second more, Aizawa would have called it quits, but lucky for him, he didn't. The class seeing this is shocked. They knew he was strong, but something like this is just crazy work. From there, the finals would be done, and they would be told about their training camp. Aoyama right away telling All for One, who plans accordingly. This was going to be his final stand. From there, they would all go shopping and stuff. Because Korigiri and Shigaraki died, nothing bad happens. This also means he can't teleport anymore because he never got the quirk back from Korigiri. It was just like crushed in the rubble and stuff. So they have a good shopping trip instead, getting back and finally getting on the bus, making their way over. I'm not gonna go over what happens to the camp, who really cares about that? In this time, Deku would train, keeping his state up for longer and longer, yada yada, who cares? The third day would then roll around. Deku getting extra training with Aizawa to try and top his limit. Doing this, he would get his limit to 1 minute long. That's it. Deku has 1 minute to fight or he's cooked. All of that day he trains in his form, using up a lot of energy and injuring himself slightly. This was the time All For One wanted to attack. That night, as the moon came up, Deku sat inside eating dinner and stuff with the rest of his class, just kinda chilling like you would think. Night going from about 6 till 10 PM, where the class would decide to do the haunted forest thing, you know that walk? Deku in this time isn't sent in alone, instead he's sent through the forest first, walking through borderline the entire thing, getting scared a couple of times, just having a good time in general, until he would feel something, super hot air blowing towards him. He looks up, taking a couple of sniffs in before smelling smoke. Right away he rushes over, knowing this could be bad news. He jumps from tree to tree, using his monkey tail to run even quicker, until he would eventually get to Twice and Darby sitting and burning the forest down. Without even asking who they were, Deku would lunge in, dropping in from above and bonking them both over the head with his tail and his fist. They both drop almost right after this. Deku going back to look around, feeling like he was being watched from somewhere. He jumps from tree to tree, jumping above the tree line and looking around. To his surprise, it looked pretty empty. He's kinda confused by this, until before he can even react, he's slammed from the back. A high-end Nomu slamming his shit right across the face. Deku's rocked by this, slamming into the trees below him and sliding on the dirt. Midway through falling, Deku activates his wrath form, saving his back from being completely cooked. Looking up and seeing the Nomu still right on his ass, Deku jumps back, doing a backflip and slamming the Nomu in the head with a kick, which to his surprise doesn't do much. The Nomu's head flies up before locking back in and slashing at Deku. Deku for once feels this. His energy coating him did a good job at defending him, but Deku was still hurt. Once again he slammed through the trees, his rage boiling over and pushing his strength to new heights. He stares the Nomu down, body bulging and seeping with energy. Hair stood up like a Super Saiyan. His rage boiled. Deku doing a whole grrr, grrr, you know, like Gohan, like tweaking thing. I love that shit. Anyway, before he screamed, his scream growing through the ears of everyone in the forest, almost a warning call to anyone nearby. Aizawa hearing this is horrified. No, what, why now? He looks at the sky, seeing the full moon hidden by some clouds. No, there's no way. He starts to look to where the sound came from, not seeing Deku transformed. Maybe it's not the worst case. Right away he rushes over, running top speed at Deku who would still be tweaking. His energy spikes up, causing Deku even more pain. He felt like his body wanted to grow outwards, like he was trapped inside his own skin. The energy inside of him leaking out, seeping out of his pores, leaking out like a red vapor like the 8th gate. The Nomu seeing this begins talking. So you have multiple quirks too? Deku staring him down, not hearing a single thing. The Nomu begins charging a laser beam quirk into his hand while Deku stood still, charging it to the max output and sending it flying right through the forest. Every tree, rock, and grass piece in the forest being sliced clean in two. Deku, not having dodged in this time, gets cooked. His chest slightly open, starting to heal but only barely. This attack is the one that did it. He loses it, losing all sense of self once more, but staying in his wrath form. His energy floods out, slamming against the trees around him. People in the classroom feeling the aura coming from him. They all stare off into the distance, seeing something flying into the air. A small black spot being followed by a hulking mass of energy. Deku slams the Nomu into the air, head coming clean off its body. Its body drops limp as the head begins regenerating its entire body. Deku ain't having none of this though. He jumps back, flaying like a wild animal before grabbing onto the Nomu at his freshly regenerated neck. Deku's teeth growing as he did this, rage turning into more fuel into the fire. The Nomu doesn't say a word, having its neck snapped by Deku like a twig, dropping limp for good as Deku slams it with a punch so hard it disappears. Having turned full wrath form, he loses it, burying his fangs at anything strong, his rage directed at the nearest thing he could sense, which due to his heightened senses would be another. One he didn't recognize until now. He stares at a tree about 200 meters away, jumping off into the air and rushing right at it. All For One in the tree smiles, clapping as he floats up. So I finally found you, Izuku Midoriya. He watches as Deku doesn't even stop to have a chat. He rushes right into All For One, trying to slam him with a punch but being blocked by 10 barrier quirks. All For One smiles. Hey, let's not be too hasty. I want to enjoy myself. You know, this brings me a lot of joy too. Finally getting to kill the person who did this to me. He mimes, looking at his face. Deku, still animalistic, doesn't even listen, slamming punches into the barriers in front of him, which starts to crack them. All For One stares on. Filthy ape. All that power and you're still losing control. You know, if I had that power, I promise I'd use it in ways you wouldn't even dream of! His barriers explode, All For One charging his signature attack while aiming at Deku. High frequency booster times 3, shockwave times 2, dark ball, kinetic booster times 4, automatic aiming times 2. Deku, even in his animalistic wrath form, knows that this attack was bad news. Barely able to see as All For One's hand glows a bright light. He tries to dodge it, but All For One's arm locks on. Run, little monkey. Run far, far away. Deku would begin booking it, running away at top speed as a huge beam begins chasing chasing him down. All for one in the distance smiles. It's so close I can almost taste it. He rushes in another direction, following Deku's movements and trying to meet him halfway. Deku swings through the forest like an injured animal, running away at top speed as the beam chases him, running and running until he sees someone in the distance. Aizawa. Running away, his real self snaps back to life, taking control once again and steering away from Aizawa. Unlucky for him, the beam begins to lock in on Aizawa instead. All for one watching with front row seats as the beam gets closer and closer to him. Deku sees this out the corner of his eyes. No, it's not following me anymore. Aizawa! He knows Aizawa can't react in time, the world almost slowing down around him, grabbing onto a tree and swinging around, shooting himself top speed towards the front of Aizawa, tanking the beam for him. Aizawa standing dumbfounded until BOOM! The blast shoots the two of them flying away. Deku looking burnt and broken, the quirks all for one used completely tearing through all of his senses. His ears ruptured, equilibrium shot and nose completely broken. Aizawa standing with scratches all over him, barely clinging to consciousness. What the hell was that? He looks around him. The floor was gone. Trees and dirt now turned into a dome like Shibuya after Sukuna. Deku laying in the middle with a gaping hole in his chest. Aizawa seeing this rushes over, limping on one leg. No, kid, what happened? He gets flashbacks to the USJ, seeing the energy fading away from Deku. Deku lays on his back, completely unconscious, staring up at the sky with closed eyes. Aizawa begins to cry looking over him, thinking he was dead, before feeling a presence. All for one. He begins clapping in the distance. What a show you put on, Izuku Midoriya. Do you know how long I've waited for this moment? Aizawa looks up at him, horrified. No, it's you. So you did this. All for one looks down at Aizawa too. So you were the one that was taking care of him this whole time. That explains why it was so hard to find his records. He holds his hand up, charging a similar attack to the first one. And for that, I think I'll reward you with a slow, painful death. Aizawa sees the attack charging, looking at Deku. He remembers all the time he's had with them, all the occasions he's had. Like he was borderline Deku's dad at this point, like, let's be real. Coming back to reality and seeing him broken and bloody all over the floor, breaking his heart. As the memories flash back, Deku grabs onto Aizawa, his barely conscious body moving one last time to do that simple thing. Aizawa looks down at him, seeing his breathing shallow and slowing before he opens his eyes. Unbeknownst to all for one, the sky was out and the moon was full. Aizawa sees this, seeing a barely alive Deku staring at the moon, completely entranced. So that's how it's gonna be, huh, kid? He smiles. A fitting way to go out, I'd say. He lays down next to Deku, who stared up. Thank you for everything, Deku. Deku begins shaking uncontrollably. Like you would think, he transforms. Aizawa just another casualty to the slaughter that Deku put on. Deku would wake up a week or so later, completely alone in a hospital room. Sharp pain going through his head along with the words of Aizawa. He looked around, but no one was there. He deattached his IV drips, getting onto his phone and calling him right away. Ringing once, twice, 3 times, before the doctor and All Might come into the room. The doctor doing some checks as All Might stands emotionless in the corner of the room, knowing he had to break the somber news. After the doctor's checkup was done, All Might walks in, holding his head low and looking at the floor. Kid, Deku looks at him before crying. He already knew what he was going to say, listening in anyway as All Might explained it all. How Aizawa came to save him and got saved instead. How the two of them were injured and near death's door until Deku transformed, taking out All for One in a rampage, and in his rampage, killing Aizawa like a bug. He stares at his hands, in his eyes seeing blood trickling over him. The tears flow and don't stop. Deku mourning the loss of his father figure and his best friend. And that is all. So instead of Deku dying, it was Aizawa. Whoops. I know I got a history of killing off Deku, and at the end I wanted it to end differently. And you know, who doesn't love Aizawa? Anyways, if you end up liking this, leave a like, drop a sub and a comment, and if you didn't, then let me know, because I feel like this one might be received a little bit bad. Thank you to our members too. Big ups to MaxCube99 and Follow Your Path, or Lightskin Shinbob. Honestly, I don't know what the hell to call him, but you know, still big ups. They're going to play a decent role in how the next What If goes, so honestly, keep an eye out for that one. And once again, thank you to the GOAT for commissioning this. I hope you liked it. I tried to cook, and I'm pretty sure I did. If you want a commission like this, then there will be a video linked in the description, but no promises I'll say yes to it. Also, please don't give me a whole ass fanfic. I want to be creative with it. If you want me to just like read a script, then yeah, I'm good. This commission was goated because it gave me the freedom to cook with it. Also, for a pin, word of the day is erasure. Erasure, yeah, erasure. Drop the word erasure in the comments, and the first one to do that will be pinned. And I will be checking if you watched the entire video, because last time someone won without watching the entire video. You know who you are. And also drop an RIP erasure head in the comments, but don't spoil it for the people, so do like reply to the top comment instead. Yeah. Anyways, that is all. I hope you liked it once more. Thank you for commissioning it, and peace.